Hello again, this is GLL. Just want to talk about a video I've just started watching by Favyn. He really detests sprint. Now, I did a video a while back on why I think sprint didn't kill Halo and how it's not as major of a problem as people make out. I just want to watch this video and just want to make my points as I go through, because he's got a lot of points. Some of them you could be argue, yeah, they're correct, but other ones he's totally off the mark. But check out his channel. He's a decent guy, got some good points. So
here I am making a video I didn't want to have to make. Sprint is a topic I was sure by now had been covered enough. Enough videos have been made, and there's nothing I could say that hasn't already been said. But I've had a change of heart. I've noticed something I never noticed before, and it lies within the arguments people use to defend Sprint. And I use the term defend very loosely here because I don't see how Sprint can actually be defended. Now let me preface something. When I talk about things, I of course focus on the multiplayer side, and usually focus on gameplay mechanics at that. If Halo was strictly a single-player game, I wouldn't care what changes they made, because it would be played primarily for the story, at least for me.
okay, firstly, I disagree with that point, because just because something doesn't have multiplayer doesn't necessarily mean that the mechanics should be altered in some way or for some reason. Like, you can play, if they said like Grand Theft Auto was just going to be first person from now on, then some people would be pissed off. But say Halo's going to have Call of Duty controls, just because it's not got multiplayer doesn't mean that it's not a factor, you know. It's still a factor, it still changes the game.
Which leads me straight into one of the most common forms of sprint defense. It doesn't make sense that Spartans can't do these things. Spartans have been able to sprint in the lore from the very beginning. Well, this pisses me right the fuck off, because the person completely ignores sprint as a gameplay mechanic.
Yes, this is 100% true. This makes absolutely no sense. People have actually come on my videos and said that that ADS is in the game, and that ADS is smart scope, and that smart scope was in the Fall of Reach book, so therefore it can be in the game. Wrap your head around that bullshit logic.
Something that affects the moment-to-moment experience. It goes on to justify its existence simply because a Spartan ran in a book one time. Whoop-de-fucking-do. Just because it makes sense for a person to be able to sprint doesn't mean it automatically has to be included in a fucking video game. What if you were playing Forza and you realize, hey, I can't get out of my car. I'm stuck in my car. This isn't real life. In real life, I can get out of my car. Well, the game doesn't require you to get out of the car. Its mechanics and design isn't built so that it's necessary to do so. But I read this novel one time, and it had a car in it, and in the novel, the person was able to get in and out as he or she pleased. See how fucking stupid that sounds? That's how dumb that argument sounds to me when it comes to sprint being in Halo because it exists in the lore, or because it makes sense simply because people can sprint in real life.
Correct. Halo is not real life. It's a video game.
These are bullshit arguments. Then you have people who actually try to justify sprint from a gameplay standpoint, which as far as I'm concerned is next to impossible. What I'm about to say has been said a million times before, but sprint is an illusion. Its supposed benefits aren't even real, and I'd argue that gameplay-wise it has absolutely nothing but negative connotations. What's it even supposed to do? What is it even actually supposed to improve on? Well, people think Halo is too slow. They don't like being constricted to a steady movement speed. They think games need a Sonic the Hedgehog mode to be relevant. And I'd argue that in most games, sprint works just fine. It's not a bad mechanic outright, but Halo was built without sprint in mind. Its maps were designed for moving at one speed. Jumps were designed to be made moving at one speed. Cover was strategically placed. Routes were strategically lengthened or shortened. Everything was balanced and designed around Halo not having sprint. So I'd argue putting sprint in the game literally changes everything. If you put sprint into a Halo map, it would be awful. It wouldn't work. Reach showed us that. It had to design maps around some people having it and some people not, and ended up with the worst map selection in the series, and arguably the most gross form of sprint thus far.
Okay. You've touched on this in your videos before. You clearly don't like Halo Reach. Now, okay, Halo Reach and sprint. The argument that Halo Reach wasn't designed around sprint and that the maps are the worst selection in, Halo history is a matter of opinion. You don't like Halo Reach. You said you don't like the bloom, you don't like the sprint, you don't like this, that and the other. obviously we know you're going to lean towards every negative point that you can think of about Halo Reach, but the fact of the matter is, how can Reach have a bad map selection? You've also gone into out of your way to say that Reach had, you didn't accept the Forge maps as maps. You don't accept those as part of the game because they're built maps. They're not. But at the end of the day, what is the difference? Yes, they don't look as shiny or whatever, but you're still getting Sanctuary, you're still getting, Ascension, you're still getting these maps. They count as part of the game, whether you like it or not. Just because you don't like the look of them, that doesn't count. So you have to count those levels too. So then you've got, the likes of Sword Base and, Tempest and some really good maps in there. And Countdown and shit like that. Countdown was a great level. Terrible in SWAT, but great for the actual gameplay. So that's a matter of opinion when you say it had the worst map selection ever and that the game was optimized for sprint. Well, I don't know how you can prove that. I mean, at the end of the day, I did that video which clearly proves that sprint doesn't make a whole hell of a lot of difference. You're about maybe 10 seconds faster with sprint. And the Spartans in Halo Reach are slightly slower than they were to start with, so... And then sprint's an armor ability, so not everybody's using sprint in the first place. So, arguably the jetpack is far more broken when you've got maps like the Cage, which made the jetpack extremely overpowered. And then, they had to update it and turn it into uncaged to give other people a chance. So, I don't remember them ever doing that for sprint with any of the levels. Okay, next point.
Halo 3 realized this, so in Halo 4 they doubled down and designed everything around sprint. Let me stop right there.
Yeah, let's stop right there. Why did they design everything around sprint? Halo, 343 don't know their arse from a hole in the ground. They didn't design their maps around anything, as far as I'm concerned. All those maps are terrible. I've said this before. Someone said, oh, Halo 4 had 9 great maps, and I said it had 28 shit maps in Valhalla. Completely forgot about the Pit remake, but I never really liked the Pit anyway, so the point still stands. Halo 4 had 28 shit maps and Valhalla. That's it. Whether they were built around sprint or not, it's kind of, did it or didn't it? You can make that argument either way. Were the maps larger? I'd argue that level... See, I forget the name of these levels because they're so forgettable. I would argue that a lot of the levels were just as small as Halo Reach maps or Halo 3 maps. So I can't follow that argument.
Notice how I said designed around sprint? That implies you have to change something to make it work. Sprint didn't work in Halo, so what we have to do is change Halo to work with sprint. But if you have to do this, then you defeat the purpose of the concept. Halo was too slow. People want to get places faster. Sprint lets you get places faster, but you have to make the maps bigger in the first place to allow sprint to not ruin everything, even though it still does. But now it does without any of the benefits. If you sprint from one end of Ragnarok to the other, it will take you about the same amount of time it took you in Halo 3. Same goes for Truth and Midship, or the...
No. No, let me stop you there. It's 10 seconds. You're 10 seconds faster with sprint in Halo 4 to Halo 3. I found that out on my video. Now maybe the maps are different sizes, maybe that it would be different if it was Halo Reach sprint, because there is no fucking Valhalla on Halo Reach. But at the end of the day, the point remains that Halo 4, you are 10 seconds faster with sprint from walking from one end of the map to the other on Valhalla. So the game has sped up. Not a great deal. Not as much as people think. But it does make a slight difference to movement speed. Not a massive amount, I'll again say, but it does make a difference.
pit and pitfall. If it takes you the same amount of time to get somewhere sprinting in Halo 4 and 5 as it does not sprinting in Halo 1 through 3, then that means the thing sprint is supposed to do is absolute bullshit. It doesn't actually get you anywhere faster. It just makes you think you are. It's an illusion. Can anyone come up with a single...
It's not an illusion.
Positive gameplay reason for sprint existing? It lets you make longer jumps. No, it doesn't, because if sprint wasn't in the game, that same jump would be designed to be made at base movement speed.
Okay, hold on. I can think of two mechanics off the top of my head. Okay, the first is, in Halo 1 to 3, quite often you'll get some guy that's standing just slightly away from you, right? Now, you want to try and punch this guy in the back, but he's good ways away from you. Now, you've got no grenades. Shooting him with a BR or whatever you've got isn't going to be a smart idea because he's going to turn around and he's got a rocket launcher. So what do? You're fucked. What you got to do is try and get up to him. So if he's walking in the opposite direction, you're constantly walking at exactly the same fucking speed. If he's walking around aiming his gun and he's not looking the other way, not sees you, you can sprint up and clobber him in the back. It allows you to catch up to people. You know, there's been times in Halo 2 where people have been in a distance, I've not been able to catch up with them, and I've said, "Oi, knobhead," and they've turned around, and that's when I've killed them. Because, you know, there was open mics on Halo 2. Everybody could hear everybody. But that's gone now. So the only way to catch up to somebody is that quick burst of speed, that quick thinking, tap that button, bang, he's dead. That's a mechanic. If you don't like it, you don't like it, but it's there. That helps a great deal if you just want to close someone down quickly. If they're unaware of you, zoom. You're on them. It's as simple as that. Right. Now the other thing is longer jumps. Okay. This thing about longer jumps. What people actually mean is it makes you make different jumps. There's certain jumps that you can't do without sprint. Now, they might not be longer jumps. No, that's like kind of a twist of words there. But there's certain jumps what just give you that little bit of it gives you a little bit of a boost. Now, an obvious one I'll tell you is, right, so if you go on like say Invasion and you're on the Spire, for instance, you can climb up onto one of the pillars and then actually jump onto the base as a Spartan with sprint. You can't do that otherwise. Now, as an elite, you can do another jump because the elite jump slightly higher. There's another jump you can do where you can just jump on the ledge and get up onto the base off the spawn, and that's another jump that you can't do. But we're talking about sprint, so there's one there. There's a slight jump there. There's also numerous examples of this. Like there's jumps in the campaign on Halo 4 where you have to sprint and then quickly jump to get over the wall to get out of the level to then come back on yourself. That's in the Forerunner level, so I can post that in the description or whatever. I'll write that down. And, you know, stuff like that. So it does give you not necessarily a longer jump, but there's certain jumps you can do with sprints that will, you know, be an advantage during the game. That is a fact.
Allows you to get places faster. I just fucking explained how that's an illusion. It isn't real. Were you not listening? It lets me sprint up to my opponent when they're shooting at me and I can double melee them. That's a bad thing. That
is correct. You can sprint up to your opponents. That's the mechanic. That's the truth of it. It's nothing to do with sprinting from one end of the map to the other. You're going to gain about 10 seconds on Valhalla end to end. You know.
not good. That's not fun. That's a downside to sprint. Uh-oh. Fav, are you telling me that not only does sprint provide absolutely no good improvements to the gameplay, but it actually damages it and causes problems? Yes, thank you, person who was paying attention. Sprint fails to do the thing it was trying to improve and now adds a plethora of problems. The maps are now stretched out and designed for sprint, but what about when you have to bring your gun up and actually shoot somebody? Well, now you're moving at base movement speed in an area designed for Sonic. Gotta go fast! No, you gotta slow down right now and shoot that guy. But the nearest cover is over there because the maps are stretched out, and I'm in one of those dead zones due to the map stretching. So now I have to put my gun down again and sprint away to get to cover because the game was designed for a faster movement speed than the one I'm currently moving at. Sprint encourages.
Hold the phone. That's not true, is it? Because there's areas of what crossfire and shit in all Halo maps, not just the ones that have sprint. So that could be said for any map. Could be said for Halo 2, where you know walk out in the middle of the map on fucking Blood Gulch or Coagulation or whatever. You walk out in the middle of the map, you're exposed. You can be exposed on anything. It doesn't matter if you're sprinting or not. Oh yeah, if you are sprinting, obviously you're going to be less of a target because you're going to go through that area quicker. But that doesn't matter because there's areas of open space in all Halo games, in all Halo maps, across multiple games. So that point doesn't hold up.
Double melees, running away, stretched out maps with dead zones featuring virtually no cover. It completely changes map design and makes the actual part of the game where you're shooting less fun, because the game isn't optimized for the movement speed where you partake in the shooting aspect. And for those people saying, just have a no sprint playlist, literally impossible. The game is built around it. Removing it means nothing would work. And honestly, it's important for the game to play consistently across all game modes. Finally, we come to the most
That I definitely do agree with. If you're going to remove sprint, you have to remove it in all game modes, not just have one shitty game mode with no sprint. You've either got to go balls deep all in or get rid of it.
Prominent form of defense. It's the people who look at Halo 5 and say things like, sprinting is tied to your shields. The map are designed around it and the abilities complement it now. We have thrusters to make strafing less clunky coming out of sprint. We can mantle now, so all the problems sprint caused with the control scheme and crouch jumping are eliminated. We don't need to crouch jump anymore. You now do cool things like slide and Spartan charge, and they're all mechanics that branch off directly from the sprint mechanic. Halo 5 is fun, it's competitive again. Yes, it has sprint, but they made it not nearly as bad as it used to be. That's the problem right there. Again, you didn't just sit there and explain to me my sprint is good. All you did was tell me about how it's just not quite as bad as it used to be.
That's absolutely correct. I can't fault that comment. That's good logic. They made no points.
There was nothing in there that said this makes the game inherently better. All I heard was a million things that had to change and be implemented for the sake of one mechanic that didn't work. So rather than accept the fact that it...
Whoa. So you're telling me that they implemented clamber because of sprint? Spartan shoulder charge because of sprint? I'm not following you. Those could be in either way. So I don't get it. What do you mean? They're not implemented because of sprint.
Didn't work in Halo. They changed Halo. Now Halo isn't Halo anymore. In Halo, you never put your gun down. Maps were designed with movement and combat built into the same gameplay. Now in Halo, you have the shooting part and the running around part. You see,
Well, how do you have the shooting part and the running around part? What do you mean? Name me a specific part of a level or something. You're not giving me an example. What do you mean you have the shooting part and the running part? There's loads of levels in Halo 2 or Halo 1 that have running around parts, if you like, where you've got to get through like areas where you wouldn't want to stay in for particularly long. You want to get the fuck out of there as quickly as possible. Like, say you go on, I don't know. Let's say you're on Hang 'em High, right? On Halo 1. You want to get that fucking rocket launcher sniper rifle and get the fuck out of there because you're open in the middle of the map and you're exposed and you need to get out of there quick. Okay, what does that have to do with sprint? If you've got sprint or not, it's still a fucking killing field. It's still a fucking no man's land. You still got a fucking good chance of getting shot on your way to that power weapon or back. It's got nothing to do with sprint. So I don't know what you mean. You're not giving me an example of something from Halo 4 where you have to fucking sprint and you must sprint in this area. It doesn't make sense.
Didn't add sprint to Halo. They put sprint at the forefront of the entire experience and were forced to build a game around it because it absolutely had to be in the game for some fucking reason. We don't care if we have to gut everything that made Halo great to implement it by jacks, we're going to do it. It's like if a car company came out with this new car, the car wasn't made for the road it was driving on, it was obstructive, it took up multiple lanes, it was way too big, just flat out didn't work. Now imagine, rather than simply removing the car from the road system that it wasn't built for, they decided to change everything around it just so the new car could work. They had to widen the lanes, they had to make overpasses higher, etc., etc. It's like they took something and then instead of gutting the thing that didn't work, they changed the system around it so that it would work. Even though it would be.
But how are they doing that? What, by adding Spartan charge and ground pound? How are they doing that? They're not building everything around sprint. I don't see how you can say that. What, because they're making the levels supposedly bigger and stuff? I mean, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't wash. What are you saying? How are they building everything, and I'm saying everything, around sprints? They're not. They're just building the game. Like, they're just a bunch of fucktards. They don't know what they're doing. There's nothing to do with sprint. They didn't say, oh, here's sprint. We have to make sure this is in the game. They don't know what they're doing. They don't hold fucking crouch jumping sacred. They don't hold fucking scope aiming sacred. It's got to be fucking Call of Duty ADS. So I don't see why sprint would have to be something that they have to have in there. These people know absolutely nothing about game design. It has nothing to do with sprint, any of this bullshit they're adding now. It's just bullshit. That's it. They haven't got a clue. Don't have a fucking clue.
Be a lot simpler just to remove it. Wouldn't that be stupid? If something breaks your system, remove it. If something breaks your game, don't break everything else around it just so people can't tell.
But sprint doesn't break the game. It just makes you 10 seconds faster or whatever. That's using the Valhalla example. It makes you slightly faster. That's it. It doesn't break the game. That's my argument. If you don't like it, you don't like it. If you think it fucking changes the game slightly and whatever, it doesn't break the game by any means. It's not that big of a deal.
Remove the game-breaking mechanic and focus your resources on something that actually improves the game. Instead, they focus all their resources on making sure something doesn't ruin it. It's not worth it, because as I've stated before, it doesn't actually do anything. Sprint is the square peg being shoved in the round hole. It's the piece of the puzzle that just doesn't fit, because it's from a different fucking puzzle.
So hold on a minute then. So you're telling me that sprint is the only problem with Halo? Okay, so we've got jetpacks, we've had armor lock, we've got like ground pound now. We've got fucking Spartan charge, which is just shoulder charge. They're all fucking like Destiny powers and shit. You know, holograms and shit. You don't have a problem with any of this. Sprint is the problem. Sprint is the main problem of Halo. How is that even possible? How can you say that it's the square peg going into the round hole and all this? If you remove sprint tomorrow, it's not going to fix Halo. Halo is dead. There's way more problems with Halo 5 than just sprint. There's way more problems with Halo 4 than just sprint. Sprint is just a slightly fucking... gives you a slight boost of speed at certain moments in the game. Yes, you can sprint up to somebody and punch somebody, but that doesn't break the fucking game, does it? Because that person can fucking stick that person as they're running towards them, or they can pull out a fucking sword and stab them, or shotgun. At the end of the day, it's part of the game. If someone runs at you, blindly runs at you, you don't always go into a double melee. There's plenty more you can do. There's plasma pistols, there's shotguns, etc. It doesn't make sense to say that every single sprint battle goes into a double melee. It doesn't make sense to say that sprint breaks the fucking game and it's the fucking square peg going into a round hole, because there's way more problems with Halo than just sprint.
Conclusion, there's a few people who know exactly why sprint is in the game. They cram sprint into Halo because it's basically in every other game. It's familiar to gamers, and some just expect it to be there. They don't care if it breaks.
Now that I can relate to. Putting it there just because it's expected to be in there, that makes a lot more sense. Okay, not liking it because you don't like the feel of it. It doesn't feel like a Halo game. That I can agree with. That makes more sense.
Breaks everything, or if it has no positive implications. When these people click their left analog sticks, they expect to go faster. They don't care if it actually does anything in the long run. And they don't care about all this shit I just said. They want to put their gun down and run around because that's what they're used to. Sprint in Halo ladies and gentlemen, is nothing more than a form of advertising. Every piece of gameplay footage advertises that this game lets you gotta go fast, and the people in charge are too afraid to make a game that doesn't let you. And it doesn't matter if it has only negative implications. It doesn't matter that Sprint literally does nothing good, and that it's an illusion. Publishers don't think a game without Sprint can sell, and they're going to shoot themselves in the foot every time and time again because they don't have faith in its players. All it does is take a little bit of explaining. Hey, our game doesn't need Sprint because we built our maps around not having it. Our gameplay is tailor-made to accommodate the player not sprinting. Here's some of the benefits to us making a game this way. Here's how it differentiates us from other games. Explain.
Yes, dude, but that would take actual time and effort, something that 343 will not give anybody or anything. They don't care, man. They don't care about Halo. They don't care about you or me or any of the Halo fans or anybody in general. They're just a bunch of idiots. They don't give a fuck. So you're just wasting your time. It's like, this is what they could do. It's like, they're not doing that with the game they've got. They're not even explaining anything about the game they've actually got now that makes any fucking sense. It's like, someone had to go on Twitter to find out there was no split screen in the fucking game. This is the people that are so fucking stupid. They don't have a fucking clue, man. I don't know what else to say. You keep saying, like, this is what they could do. They don't have the fucking intelligence or the fucking know-how to fucking explain something. They can't explain something. They just be like, our game is 60 frames per second and it's 1080p and it's got dedicated servers, and that's all you'll ever hear from them because they don't know anything about Halo. They can't build a Halo game to save their lives. They can't. Okay, we all played Halo 4 and it's shit. Okay, Halo 5 is even worse. If you played the beta, it's worse. Okay, we know this. There's no point in saying like, oh, they should remove Sprint, because that's not even one of the main fucking problems.
This shit just like I did, only, a lot nicer, and don't use profanity. I don't know what else to say. I don't know how I could possibly hammer it home any further. Sprint does nothing but hurt the gameplay. I hear that all the time. Halo has to evolve. It can't stay the same. I agree with that, but that doesn't mean go ahead.
See, I don't agree with that, because that's just fucking play on words, because it's just like, the first Halo was called Combat Evolved. Well, yeah, because they stuck that on the end to make it sound cool so it would sell better. But there's nothing about Halo that's like supposed to be like Combat Evolved. Like, this is a load of bollocks, isn't it? It's just like, oh yeah, it's evolved, it's gotta keep evolving. What, by copying fucking Call of Duty? You said it yourself. Sprint is just copied from other games. Well, then you throw in fucking ADS, you throw in all this other bullshit from Call of Duty that no one wants. That's all they're doing. Okay, there's none of this other shit, is there? It's all the bollocks.
And add something that's bad. You add things that build on Halo's strengths. You don't add something that hurts it just because it has to have something new and you can't come up with any good ideas. Don't add mechanics to a game to try and get people from other communities to switch over.
Correct.
They're going to get your game and play it anyway. You'll get their money. But now after the hype dies
Well, I don't know about that, because who's going to buy this game? It's shit.
down, they'll go back to their main game. And you'll also lose the actual Halo fans because this game doesn't play like Halo anymore.
That's absolutely 100% true.
Let's theoretically say that Halo is the top FPS shooter. And there's a series that used to be great and have a community, but it lost its way trying to be something it's not. And that series, let's call it Call of Duty, has decided that instead of going back to what made it great, it's going to double down and try to appeal to you, a Halo player. So it ditches iron sights and removes Sprint and builds its game around it. Would you play that game? Maybe, but would it replace the game you're already playing? Would it make you switch over? I'd argue it wouldn't. So not only do they fail to capture your attention, but now they further alienated their old fan base, and they don't get the game they want either. Well, that's what's happened to Halo. Halo was great. It's such a strong...
That is 100% true for any of you fucking fanboys out there. That is 100% true what he's just said.
thriving community, but in an attempt to steal players from another, they have slowly lost everybody. And I would argue that Sprint is the biggest reason for this. So desperate to fit it where it doesn't.
You see, that's where my opinion fucking completely differs. It's not just Sprint. There's many more problems with Halo. Sprint is just one fucking thing that, you could leave it in and it still wouldn't matter to me. I played Halo Reach. I enjoyed Halo Reach. Sprint was all I fucking used. And I had never fucking thought at one point that while I was playing Halo Reach that, you know, sprint shouldn't be in the game. You know, I was more concerned with the armor lock and the fucking jetpacks. They were way more overpowered and problematic than the fucking sprint, if you ask me. So, there you go.
Belong, and now so far down the rabbit hole that 343 is willing to do anything to justify its existence and make it seem like it belongs, even if it means making a different game entirely. I hope I made sense. Hope I didn't upset anybody. That wasn't my intention. As always, I just want you to think. Maybe you're sitting there and in your mind you're thinking, "Hey Fav, you're wrong. Sprint does make the gameplay better, and here's why." I'd love to hear those reasons and get some conversations rolling. I have an open mind, and it's open to be changed. Honestly, I just want Halo to be successful. And if I thought Sprint was good for it, then I'd defend it just as much as I attack it now. If you like my stuff, hate my stuff, want to talk about my stuff, leave a like, dislike, or comment below, and of course share the video and subscribe for more. Till next time.
Cool video, dude. Hope you enjoy the response. Right. See you later, guys. Feel free to subscribe. Make sure you subscribe and like Favyn. See you later.